Special angles. We'll talk about 4 general types. There's a lot of overlap, but we can break them down into vertical angles, supplementary and complementary, linear pairs, and the angles formed by transversals. So first up, vertical angles. When 2 lines intersect, they form vertical angles. The vertical angles are the angles that are across from each other. For example, A and C are vertical angles, and D and B are also vertical angles. You might see vertical angles if you looked at 2 roads intersecting. They also form 2 pairs of vertical angles. Supplementary angles, we call any 2 angles that add up to 180 degrees supplementary. They can be adjacent, which means they touch each other, or they can be not adjacent, which means they aren't attached at all, or they might only be attached at, let's say, their vertices. And so in both cases, if we added up angle 3 plus angle 4, we would get 180 degrees. We can see supplementary angles in the cheerleaders' formations if we look at, here, right there. One on this side and one on this side. Altogether, they would make up 180 degrees. Complementary angles are angles that add up to 90 degrees. Easy to confuse. Complementary starts with a C, which maybe might remind you of a corner, and corners are a lot of times 90 degrees. Sorry. Complementary angles can also be adjacent and non-adjacent. They can touch, like they do in this row, or they could be separated, like they are down here. Either case, they're still called complementary. When the soccer player kicks a corner shot, the 2 sides formed by his shot will form complementary angles because they'll add up to 90 degrees. So there's a close-up of complementary angles. So linear pairs are a special type of supplementary angles. When they are adjacent, we call it a linear pair. So the blue angle and the orange angle, they would add up to 180 degrees, and they share a vertex, and they share a ray. If I had 2 angles that looked like this, that is not a linear pair. They have to form this straight line together. So if you looked at this frame of a house, we have a straight line up here. And then if we take one of the supports, the 2 angles formed by that support would be a linear pair. So first off, when we say transversal, the transversal itself is actually a line. It's any line that intersects 2 or more other lines. All 3 of these are examples of transversals. The red line is the transversal crossing the blue lines. So you could have 2 or you could have more than 2. We can kind of see a transversal in this picture. If I show you, let's say, this line right here, cutting across all those other little lines. Transversals make some interesting angles. You'll need to learn 3 new names: alternate interior, alternate exterior, and corresponding. So this can be a little tricky. Alternate interior are 2 angles that fall between the 2 lines, but on other sides of the transversals. Alternate exterior are on opposite sides of the transversal, but are outside the line it crosses. The lines it crosses. Corresponding, this one can be a bit tricky. People sometimes confuse these. Corresponding are on the same side of the transversal and kind of in the same spot. So if I were to say, okay, this is the upper left angle in this intersection right here, if I focus on the intersection at the bottom, the corresponding angle is also in the upper left. So alternate exterior, opposite sides, inside the 2 lines. Alternate exterior, opposite side, outside the 2 lines. Corresponding, same position in each intersection. So here it is all cleared up. So those are the 4 types of angles that we're going to start with. Make sure you've taken notes and don't forget to summarize. It just needs to be brief, 1 or 2 sentences. If you have any questions, use the Google form found below the video. Type up your questions so I'll know to cover that in class.